I think that's the thing that really sets yourself from, a regular machinist and a badass machinist, right? Is that you're able to figure out how to get it done. It's not, oh, I can't do it. It can't be done. It's how the hell do I get it done?
Not everybody has the right machine or the right vise or the right clamp or the right tool. Sometimes you just got to get it done. It's really easy for a machine shop to become almost like a bank to a customer. It's easy to see net 30 terms, net 60 terms. I've heard of some automotive places, like Big Three or something like that, they're net 120, net 180.
I would recommend putting something in your own terms that has late payments, 15% after so many days, 20, whatever.
That's why it's really important to establish a good line of credit and make sure you've got a good cash flow set up.
Especially for the small shops that can't front that money. Like you said, we ended up being a bank.
Exactly. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impractical Machinists podcast. My name is Patrick, and you can find me on Instagram as @JobShopperTN.
I'm Cameron. Machining is cool.
I'm Bradley with Marvel Machining.
On this episode, we have a very special guest joining us, Kenny Urban, otherwise known as Patriot Machinist on Instagram. We're going to be talking to him about his machining career, what it's like to run his fancy high-end shop, and get his take on a few different topics. Welcome, Kenny.
Hey, Patrick, what's going on, man? Brad, Cameron, nice to see you guys.
What's up?
Hey, Kenny, can you spell that machinist for us?
Yeah, so actually, wait
know?
a minute. I was going to come on here and I was going to go guns blazing, okay? Because the last episode that you guys just put out, right? You called out the machinist. Well, this right here is the reason why.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was little, you want to tell him? Well, you can say it. Go ahead. I'll let you kick in. Go ahead. What? All right. So anyways, we'll cut her loose. So when she was little, she would always say, my dad's a machinist. And so this was, I don't know, maybe I did my Instagram like 4 years ago. So I decided to spell it out that way and not realizing that, eventually the account might come into a little bit of following and now I'm screwed. I can't change it because, it would just, I got a logo with it in there and everything now. So it'd just be too much of a pain. So you guys got to live with it. But no, I can't spell machinist.
Most machinists can't spell anyway.
Right.
We're not supposed to. We don't have to, man.
On this episode, we're going to do a spelling bee for Kenny.
Yeah, I just figured he spelled it that way because of his spelling level.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Chicago Public Schools, baby.
Right.
Right. All those taxes got to go somewhere, right?
Definitely not school.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you on, Kenny. We're looking forward to this. So, I guess just we know all about you, but tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your career, how you got into machining. I understand you had a career to begin with that was not manufacturing or machining at all.
No, actually, man, like everybody my age group, when we were in high school, they always told you got to go to college. You got to get a degree. You're not going to make yourself out to be anybody unless you got a degree. So I did that route. I went to do computers first and didn't really care for that. And I realized that the jobs were going to be shipped overseas. So I dropped that, went into business, was pursuing a business degree, dropped that, didn't like that. So as you can see, I can't stand school, right? So just right when Miranda was being born, I was in school to be a law school. I was going to be a lawyer. And so that was taking a lot of time. And as you can tell, you can imagine the old lady was not happy about that because, all my time was invested in writing legal briefs and doing schoolwork and she was about to be born. So I had to kind of figure out what I was going to do. So I grew up with my dad machining. He's been here at Meyer Tool for 38 years. So he'd always bring home like inserts and edge finders and stuff growing up. And I'd be like, oh, what's this? He'd tell me all about it. So I think when I decided to drop the law school thing, I was like, hey, can I get a shot over at your shop? I want to see how, what it's all about. Always had some intrigue, he'd come home telling me that what they made was on the Hubble Space Telescope and like cool stuff like that. So, I just figured I'd give it a shot, man. And it kind of stuck. And I love what I do. And I honestly wish that I could have never paid into college. Like I'm still paying student loans.
Yeah.
And
really?
I wish I would have taken that. Yeah. Oh yeah. I wish I would have taken that route long time ago. Just come straight into manufacturing, man. Because financially, it's a great career that can really support a family and everything. So,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And how long have you been working there for?
I've been here now for 11 years.
Okay. Nice.
So this is the only shop I've been to. My dad was running the shop when I came in. He was the shop supervisor. He decided that he wanted to step down, and he's like, "Oh, I got like 5 years, 6 years left." He's like, "I want to retire. I just want to sit on a machine." So he kind of passed the torch over to me to run the machine shop, and he runs like our Bullard. He runs our G&L. And basically anything that anybody screws up, he's like the rework guy. He's just got that old school knowledge to fix everything.
Mhm.
So he kind of does that, and I just run the shop. And there's been a lot of changes, obviously, because he was old school, I'm new school. So I brought in a lot of different things. We weren't even using like carbide; we were using high speed steel still. We were not using. We had our EC 2000 had a tool setter that was actually just sitting on top of the machine. They didn't even use it. So once I
Mhm.
started figuring out all the technology, that's when I kind of found my love for manufacturing, realizing there's a lot of technology in this. And so, yeah, it's just
That,
pretty much the rest is history, man.
that sounds like my EC400 tool setter
Yeah,
sitting on top.
no kidding, man. You gotta set that thing up, buddy.
Shame.
I touch my tools off outside of the machine.
Yeah, well, Pat says we're a fancy shop, but I don't have an offsite tool setter, so
Well,
Yeah.
it's just a height gauge. It ain't anything special.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a $10,000 unit.
Yeah.
right?
The height gauge is effective as long as you type your numbers in right.
Right.
Yep. I haven't fat fingered anything yet.
Yeah.
You don't have employees.
Yet,
Yet.
yeah, that's the biggest problem, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I could come up
Yeah.
with all the best processes in the world, but when you got to pass it on to somebody, sometimes they're just not able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got to mistake proof things.
Yeah,
What's the
absolutely.
Japanese word people always use for that?
Kamikaze.
Wow. Okay. Pokeyoke.
Pokeyoke. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You
Okay.
got to
Must be
You got to
Japanese.
pokeyoke your shop.
Not bad for the Southern boy, eh?
Yeah. You sound cultured.
Pokeyoke.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. It's that Chicago public school we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Well, so let's see. How many employees do you have working for you, Kenny?
So we actually are a fabrication shop. So we do custom fabrication. I've got a machine shop department, which consists of now it's me, my dad. I've got my lathe guy Reggie, my brother, my nephew, and then I just hired a CNC programmer. His name is Eddie. He actually worked with us about 10 years ago. He started his machining career with us. He had left, and now he came back.
Oh,
So he's gotten to learn away from Meyer Tool. Now he's back. But I've got 6 in the machine shop. Then we have a welding department. There's probably about 5 or 6 guys and a girl in the welding department. And we've got assembly department. They are doing leak testing, like all we do. We're an ASME shop. We're also cryogenic and vacuum custom fabricators. So basically, all of our welds have to be leak tight. So we've got like special machines that you spray helium on the outside of it while the actual chamber is under vacuum. And if the helium gets through the weld, it'll make the machines like scream, and they'll know you have a leak in your weld, and you got to grind it all out and then re-weld it. So yeah, we've got several different departments, and so overall, I believe there's probably about 30 on the floor.
okay. That's pretty good. Wow. Huh.
What sort of special considerations do you take whenever you're doing weldments?
Weldements.
Weldments.
Weldements. What do you mean?
Well, I've never done any kind of vacuum weldments or anything. I guess, well, not vacuum tested. I've done weldments that are hydrostatic tested and have to go
Okay.
in an
Yeah.
explosion-proof environment.
Nice.
And so with those, like, you can't have any porosity or anything. We don't test them ourselves. The end customer tests them themselves, and
Mm.
so we don't get to see that part. But as far as I know, well, there's been a couple that have come back, but we've got a pretty good track record with the weldments, not having porosity or leaks or anything. But like we'll do things like we'll add beveling whenever we're prepping our
Oh, yeah.
material. We'll go ahead and machine bevels into parts and stuff like that in order to make
Yep.
sure that we can get good penetration on it. Because a lot of times,
Oh, yeah.
like with being ASME or whatever certification you have to have for the the vacuum work, doing work
for
for labs
pressure.
and stuff like
Oh,
that, right?
ASME is for pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. So how much deviation can you have? Can you modify weldment parts so you can
Well, when
keep?
it comes to ASME, it's really strict. There's a
Yeah.
strict code that has to be followed. I actually just took a ASME course, passed it by the skin of my teeth, man. It's more geared for engineers, but my boss wanted us to have that, dip our toe in the water a little bit with that. But ASME has a lot of strict rules. Like for instance, if you're like a cover plate for a pressure vessel, has to be made out of plate. It cannot be made out of round bar. I guess it's a structural grain.
I've heard that.
So there's a lot of different things. Then you're dealing with full penetration welds. So yes, we will bevel most of our welds, so that way we can get a full pen weld. And then all of those welds would either get cryo shocked and leak tested, and then pressure tested as well. So
And do you bevel all material? Is that everything?
it depends on what the requirement of the weld is.
Okay.
So I mean, like on a vacuum chamber, you could just do a straight butt weld, but you can do
Okay.
but vacuum chambers, your welds are in the inside, and then you
Yep.
can stitch the outside. On ASME, you're gonna have full penetration, so weld inside and outside.
Yep.
So
Wow.
it's pretty cool stuff. But yeah, it's strict codes with the ASME. Vacuum chambers are a whole nother thing. It's been pretty fun. So yeah, we get to machine a lot of weldments, and it's pretty cool. So
So then your welder, I assume, is certified.
yeah. Every job we touch, we have to basically create a process. We have to document the process. Then we have to send out those particular weld samples out for either destructive testing and non-destructive.
Okay.
We do some non-destructive testing inside. We are certified to do that, but we do
Okay.
send out for destructive testing, which I believe we're going to be getting certified to do that as well. So
Wow.
Do you do any welding yourself?
no, man, you don't want to see me pick up a torch.
We'll send you a grinder for Christmas.
Yeah, dude. I'll just burn a hole right through it.
Oh man. See, coming from what I'm used to with our fab division, I mean, it's almost all structural welds on
Yeah.
implement stuff. So I mean, it's just lay a 1/2 inch bead on there and call it good. If it looks really
Sure.
bad, just hit it with an angle grinder. So that's a whole different ball game. What you're talking about.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting.
I get
That's actually where I started my career. I went to school for welding. That's where I
Oh,
started.
really?
I didn't last very long because it sucked. I hated it.
I've done some stick welding, but that's about it. I mean, we do TIG mostly, but if the welds are big enough, we'll bring out the MIG gun as long as we're allowed to. And the customer's okay with it. We'll TIG a root pass, but then we'll go over it with the MIG, just kind of fill it up.
Let's see. You've got quite a nice collection of machines there too. I know I've seen you do some 5-axis work, a little bit of turning, stuff like that. So, what all have you got there in your arsenal?
So in the machine shop, we've got right behind me, right here. That's our. We just bought it. Actually, it was a consignment machine from Herco. They let me play with it for a year, and they said if I like it, I could keep it. It was a prototype. It had a 60 tool changer on it versus their, I think it was a typical 30 to 40 what they usually have. So it's a new belt driven. So we just purchased it. So we decided we wanted to keep it. So that's a Trunnion 5-axis. Next to that over there is a VMX 24. We got a 4th axis rotary with that. Herco as well. I've got in this general area, I've got the TMM 10 Herco lathe. Got EC 2000 horizontal with an auxiliary rotary table. I think it was a HRT 600, it's a big boy. ST35Y. And then the machine that's far back is the VMX 42 SRTI, which is the 5-axis I've done most of my videos on. It was the first 5-axis we got. VMX 84, Haas VF11, and we've got the Cuttings and Lewis GNL boring mill and our bullard. Like I said, my old man runs particularly the bullard and the GNL.
Nice.
So we got a little bit of an arsenal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. That's an impressive lineup. The Bullard, is that a VTL?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
a 64-inch chuck,
Mm.
VTL, all manual. That's like my dad's baby. So we're IMTS. I was looking for not the replacement, but the upgrade. I think we're going to
Mhm.
keep that and looking at a CNC VTL, which we could use. Problem is, I got 19-foot ceilings, and that particular machine we're looking at, we'd have to either put a doghouse on the ceiling or dig ourselves a pit. So
Really?
yeah, it's a big girl.
Golly.
It is a big girl. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that'll be our next purchase. So obviously we just bought the VMX 30, so we'll have to wait off a little bit before
Mhm.
we pick up the VTL. Or if something big comes our way, then maybe we'll just swing it and do it.
Mhm. As much like high quality welding as you guys do, I know you don't do a lot of like production or high volume work. I was curious if you guys have ever thought of getting a robot welder because we have one and it's really cool. It works great.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you guys don't do really high production either. So what are you doing? Like like two Z's, three
Well,
Z's, or something, or what?
that particular robot at one time it was making probably hundreds of excuse me, weldments per week.
Say it
Um,
right.
exactly, yeah. Um, so I know it's a little bit of a pain to set up and teach the robot
Yeah.
its motion. So I guess for you guys, making short runs of stuff or one offs of stuff probably wouldn't be the best, but maybe one day.
We looked into it. I'm gonna be honest with you, Pat. We looked
Hmm.
into it. We are all about making ourselves more efficient. Can make us better. How can we do it faster? Because I mean, we are already an expensive supplier or vendor for a lot of companies,
Hmm.
and so we look for the best way to cut costs, and that's going to be technology and building in ourselves, efficiency, making processes, and yeah, I mean, I really don't see it for welding. There may be a possibility in the future for machining.
Sure.
We did pick up an orbital welder a couple years ago, and we barely use it.
Mm.
And that's kind of an automated welder too. You stick two pieces of tube together, and it'll do the orbital weld for you. It just sets the parameters. But
Mm.
it's just more and more we find ourselves that we want to use it, but we can't because of the way something's set up.
Yeah,
So
I got you. And I know another thing. I mean, you work with a lot of different materials. I mean, I used to think that we worked with a wide variety because anytime like the tooling vendors would come around, I'd tell them, we do a little bit of everything. We do stainless, we do steel, we do tool steel, we do aluminum, some plastic. But I see you over there. I mean, you're working on super alloys, titanium. I've seen you machine copper, G10. I mean, you guys really do run the full gamut of materials.
yeah, well, I mean, I've done crazy materials like amcolloy, which is like a copper nickel base, titanium. Yeah, I mean, being really big with doing work for a lot of the national labs, we'll see a bunch of weird materials. I mean, the craziest material I think the scariest material I've ever worked on was niobium. That stuff is expensive.
Mm.
Um, so we had some niobium vessels that had some e-beam welding done to them, and we had to pop a couple holes in them. And I'm looking, I got a weldment on my EC 2000 that's probably $150,000 just in material and e-beam welding work.
Dang.
Mm.
So the pucker factor is real sometimes, man.
I bet. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
And
you're not
imagine
making
with
a
stuff
setup
like
piece for that.
yeah, and
No, no.
I imagine with stuff like that too, there's not going to be very many allowable repairs made. So if you do
No.
mess up, because I mean, sometimes when you have that expensive of material, they'll allow certain repairs, like two plugs for a thread and then retap it or something.
Yeah.
But I
No,
imagine with
that
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 stuff,
usually
that's not.
does. I mean, hopefully you don't mess it up that bad where we can take a deviation on something. But yeah, I mean, it's just like check, 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 and okay, start cutting, but cut slow. Approach it. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Make sure you got everything down. Simulate. So yeah, it makes it fun.
You
It,
th-
it
So
really
you're
does.
not doing what I do, hit the button and leave for the evening?
Yeah, no,
Hope for the best?
none of that, man.
Not gonna cut it?
No, I mean, if I, yeah, on that no, but anything else, I have no problem with my guys setting something up, running it, walking over, and doing something else. That'd be great. That's
Come
what.
on, don't be scared.
Um, I mean, on that note, you were talking about like efficiency a second ago. Um, I mean, I guess I'm looking at it from a local perspective because I've never really been anywhere else. But how much competition do you feel like you have at that level of business?
We've got a couple direct direct company, direct competitors, no
Mhm.
doubt, for what we do. But a lot of the other work, I mean, machining work alone, just let's say it's standalone machining work, you guys are my competitors when it comes to that. I mean, if you can bid on it, and most of the time, because we're a bigger shop, you guys will beat our quote a million times over because we've got some overhead that you might not have.
Mm. Right, right. That's interesting.
What do you mean? If you hop on the forums, they say all shops should be quoting the exact same, no matter what your overhead is.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I probably can't have a machining part coming here for less than $1,000.
Right.
You know,
I understand.
It's it. I mean, there's office people. I got shipping, receiving. So when we actually quote something, we factor in all those costs, and it's like,
Yep.
we the engineer will order the material, make the bomb. It'll go to the purchasing department. There's labor there. Then it goes to shipping and
Yep.
receiving. There's labor there. Then it goes and gets put into a staging area,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, every step we've got some kind of labor tied to it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Sure.
I had someone tell me on, I don't know what forum it was or Facebook, that I should be taking into consideration the shop's rates around me. And I'm like, I don't care about the shop that's 100,000 square feet. They got overhead that I can't even imagine.
right,
Mhm.
yeah.
And my rate is not consistent with them at all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you're not
Well,
a yahoo in his garage with a Bridgeport, but that's your advantage is by having a smaller shop.
Sometimes I wish I was a Yahoo in my garage with Bridgeport. I'm just what'd you call me? A millbilly?
Yeah.
There you go, Millbilly.
Well, I was going to say that I feel like that's a topic you could really dive into,
Oh yeah.
like how much to charge or like how much you should charge or, like them saying you should take into consideration the shop down the street that's got, 50 employees and you should be charging around the
Right.
same as them or you shouldn't be undercutting them so much to where they can't get those parts. It's like,
Well, hey Cam, you know what they can do about that? They can get themselves a robot
right.
and then not pay anybody to run those.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
But then humans are going to be out of jobs.
Oh yeah, they took my job. Yeah.
Took our jobs.
Gerbs. Oh man.
What's the nookie? And what are you doing it all for?
You know what? That's top secret. I can't tell you, man. If I tell you, I'm
Top
gonna have to
secret.
kill you.
You can't tell us.
That's it.
Be
All right, sell it.
careful. We got to be careful. He packs a chainsaw. Oh man. So there's
And the non-limp biscuit fans are going to be so lost.
oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's an inside joke for everybody that's not in with us, I guess. We make fun of Kenny how he looks like Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit fame. Or
Oh, I mean, that's not
infame.
even just a group chat thing.
No,
You can look at
no.
him and tell he looks like
we-
Fred
That
Durst.
one is the machine is wide, man.
Yeah.
I think
Oh yeah.
when I had that one post of me holding, the taps in my hand, dude, I swear, I mean, even Kiwi down in wherever the hell he's at, right?
Australia. Yeah.
He New Zealand or Australia, wherever he's at. If that's the first thing they do is slap Fred Durst on my head. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe we should find that picture and put it up. I thought about putting it up back here, but I like this one better.
Dude, you're on my shit list.
Oh man.
Speaking of Kiwi, he wanted us to ask you, skin on or skin off?
You know damn well he knows it's skin on, baby.
Eating the kiwi skin on, huh?
Really? Skin
Dude,
on.
Yeah.
I'll eat a kiwi like an apple, bro. I
Yeah.
don't care. I'd give zero.
Mm.
Do you just like the texture of the skin?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like I eat my Snickers bars upside down.
Oh. Wow, I didn't know you were a lathe guy.
You eat it upside down. Is that because the nuts are on the bottom at that point and it's just normal to you?
It's all the flavor, bro. It's all the flavor.
It's a
No,
texture.
actually, you know what?
He likes the
I had
texture.
Miranda on the Bridgeport the other day. What was it, last week? 2 weeks ago? She said the Bridgeport's her favorite machine now.
Oh,
So she's
Good
doing
place.
Nice.
Good place to start.
it. Hell
Yep.
yeah.
Sure
Yep.
is. Getting hit by hot chips.
right.
Yeah, you
Cover
get
up.
hit by 2 million hot chips, right?
We always cut
Mhm.
out. We always took a cardboard box and held it. Just a little
Little shield.
12
Yep.
by 12. Yep, little shield.
Hell yeah, man.
We've got a piece of plexiglass, like I don't know, it's maybe 8x8, 8x6, something like that. And we cut out 2 notches, and so on the front side of your vise, you can just put 2 bolts in there with washers, and then drop it down and just kind of snug them up enough to where you can slide it in and out if you need to. But then you got a
Nice.
shield, so when you're using the power feed, you can go stand behind that, not get hit by it.
I have
And it
one I
keeps your
bought
keeps your
probably
hand on the
20 years
Y
ago.
from
It's got a it's got a bracket on it that just clips right over the vise and just sits there.
That's nice.
So have you seen those? It's got like a magnetic base with like a flexi arm and then a piece of plexiglass.
That's
Yeah.
what
Yep.
we've got. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we've got one of those too. And that thing's legit. I'll use that on the main time I use it is on a manual lathe if I'm doing brass.
Yeah.
I always get
Oh yeah,
smoked by
get
those
those
brass chips.
little tiny little pieces, come the brass chips, you know.
Yeah,
Dust.
yeah. And I know people always talk about turning your tools upside down and running reverse, but it's always something
No.
fat. Like I'm just trying to hurry up and do something real quick, make a bushing or whatever for
Yeah.
the shop.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever want to take the time to turn anything upside down and do
The
whatever.
recenter. Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll.
Do you, Kenny? How many? Well, obviously, you just mentioned a Bridgeport. How many manual machines do you have in there?
Well, we got the Bridgeport. We've got the Bullard.
Mm.
I've got a Knuth lathe, and I have Clausing engine lathe,
Oh, nice.
and your typical drill press stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I got you. Huh, that's interesting. Do you do walk-ins?
Can you? Oh yeah, that's
No
a good
yahoos,
question.
man.
No yahoos. Okay.
Actually,
Yeah, no yay.
you know what I will say. My dad has done. I've done one walk-in since I've been here. It was a local police officer. He comes in, and I was like, all right, yeah, what do you need, man? And he had some kind of rectangular steel bar that he wanted to have an extra hole put in for his workout set or something. So I did pop a hole in that for him. So that was a walk-in. He ended up coming back and give me a bottle of whiskey. So I'll take it.
Nice.
Nice.
And then yeah, right. And then my dad used to help this old guy out all the time. He used to build train sets, and this old guy would come in and ask my dad to make him some parts or whatever, modify some parts for him for some train sets. And then one day the guy stopped coming, so I don't think he's making train sets anymore.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, usually we don't have walk-ins though. But,
Yeah, I'd say
a
not.
couple.
No, I was going to ask you, with all of these big complex jobs you do, have you had any where you didn't think you'd be able to accomplish it?
So, I mean, that happens a lot. I mean, quite honest with you, there'll be jobs that I've told them not to quote, just no fucking quote the whole time, and I'll still see it like 3 months later. So, it happens. And so, yeah, man, there's been plenty of jobs. The first job that I ever had a 5-axis part, we bought that original that BMX 42 for this particular part. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I never programmed 5-axis. I've never ran a 5-axis. I knew nothing about it. Kind of just threw shit at the wall and hope it stick, and it actually ended up working out. But yeah, we get to a point where a lot of times where it's actually helps a lot that my old man's got the old school and I got the new school technology, because you'll be surprised how much of the mix that we do. Like, he'll come up with old school ideas and I'll mix it with new school ideas, and it just works.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. Sometimes you got to have that old school mentality on something that just you do not know unless you have experience.
Yeah.
We have that sometimes with our owner. He's got 57 years of experience machining.
It's a long time.
Right. So, I mean, that's actually more than Brad and I put together, believe it or not.
Why are you roping me into that?
Because you're the old fart.
Because you're the old man.
Decades.
Right. Yeah.
Decades.
You
Pat.
2 decades. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I hit 10 years this year, so I'm not getting any younger. There's actually one thing that I wanted to mention from your Instagram page that I just, to this day, I admire. Kenny was doing a job a while back. If I remember right, it was titanium. It's a very large titanium part, and we're going to try to get the pictures put up on screen. And he just had one of the coolest setups. I guess most creative thing I've seen in a long time. He's got 2 Kurt vices on his table mounted the long way, so the jaws are parallel with Y instead of X on the table like they normally would be. He's got the fixed jaw off of one and the moving jaw off the other, and he's essentially using it as one giant 30 inch capacity vise. And he's got this huge titanium part. Let's see, 12-inch diameter, 19-inch long piece of titanium. I bet you didn't buy an extra piece of material for that one, did you?
No, we didn't.
So we'll try to get those pictures put up on screen because that's just something that I wouldn't think of doing, but I saw that and I was like, that's amazing. So that was cool, Kenny. That's one of the I think
Yeah,
that
no,
might have been one of
I
the first.
appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely, that's the I think that's the thing that really sets yourself from, a regular machinist and a badass machinist, right? Is that you're able to figure out how to get it done. It's not, oh, I can't do it, it can't be done. It's how the hell do I get it done?
Right.
And
Yep.
so, I had that giant piece of round bar, and I ended up making a rectangle part out of that. That was that rectangular chamber that I had up on my Instagram, and you know, we only could get it in that round bar. That's it. There's no other option. So I had to essentially turn it in a bar stock. So, yeah, man, I figured, you know what, I can't fit it in one vise. Maybe I could do two. I If you look at the picture, I've got the rock lock base on the C axis on that BMX 42, and that's got there's a hub in the table, a little counterbore in the table. So the aluminum plate that's sitting under the rock lock base, it's in there good. So I ended up butting the one vise up to it because I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, to give it some support, because I knew when I started cranking down on that, if I didn't have anything stopping it, it would have just pushed the vise back, you know.
Sure.
So because the obviously the T slots are running in the X, and it's bolted such where it'll just slide back. So I kind of locked it in there really good. Yeah, it was kind of cool. I just, it's one of those things where, like, how the hell am I going to do this? And you go home and you basically dream about it, come back the next day and make some shit happen.
Right. Right.
So
That's actually something I don't want to say I miss it, but like you just said, it's not, it can't be done. It's how do I get it done? That really separates, I mean, the men from the boys, I guess, when it comes to machining.
oh yeah, man.
And you get hassled by the people that don't agree with the way you did it because they couldn't think of that.
It ain't stupid if it works, man.
No.
Right. Right.
Nope. Just get the job done. Doesn't matter how you
Yep.
do it.
Yep.
Yep. Not everybody has the right machine or the right vise or the right clamp or the right tool. Sometimes you just got to get it done. Sometimes you just got to surface grind without coolant.
And my turning center doesn't even have coolant in it.
Well, that's because you never use it.
Yeah, it's never on. What are you talking
You
about? You gotta
millbilly.
literally you gotta hook the electric up just to use it, bro.
If you put coolant in that thing, it'd be like 80% concentration by now. Come on.
It would be.
Oh man. And let's see, you and Cam and Brad actually met up at IMTS, I believe.
Yep.
I bet that was fun. So
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
we were.
Should have been there, Pat.
Yeah,
I
we were
know.
hoping you were gonna come through, man.
I
I just
know
thought that we were just gonna be sitting there and Patty was gonna show up.
right now, maybe next time. Actually, no, maybe next time it will happen.
Well, you got 2 years to plan, bro.
Exactly. Yeah. Even for me,
Oh.
that's probably enough time.
Doubt it.
So, obviously, you're working on kind of a different grade of work than what I'm used to. You're doing a lot of work for government agencies and some of these really big, high end private companies that will go unnamed. And one thing that I've been curious about is how do you handle payment on a job? Like you said, some things you're talking $100,000 worth of material and upfront cost. And
Yeah.
and even for a bigger company, which Meyer Tool's not that big of a company, that's a lot.
Yeah, we're
Right.
small, medium sized business.
Right.
We're
Honestly,
not huge.
right. Yeah. Galleon Manufacturing and Meyer Tool are about the same size. So I can't imagine.
I'm a small shop.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a one man dude in a garage. So, so I'm just curious how you guys handle that load of like, oh crap, I got to take this job on and spend $100,000 up front, and then get paid 30 days, 40 days, 90 days later.
Sure. So, obviously that's I'm in the shop. That's a lot of office stuff, but I do have a general idea of how it works. So I mean, for the most part, if we're new customers to us, we will require at least a 50% down payment. That's
On
just
a new
on a
customer.
new customer. Like if we don't have history built with you, you're going to put down 50%. That's going to be able to cover, your material costs and whatnot. So, And then we do have some customers that are, big name customers who are like, yeah, we don't do down payments, But what's kind of nice about those too is that when we ship the job, we get a nice chunk right away. So I mean that's kind of cool. But for all new customers, it's 50% down, and then we when we set our like net 30, those are terms based on credit check. Like we will actually check the company's credit to make sure that they're worthy of having those kinds of terms.
Oh,
Hmm.
interesting.
Okay,
So
that is good to know.
So that was a question that was been asked by a few people. Offer in net terms to customers and how to handle it.
yeah, but I mean, if there's some shop that's got a horrible credit rating that don't pay
Yep.
their vendors, I mean, why the hell would you give them 30 days to pay, right?
Right.
You're on demand ship, you pay,
Yep. Yep.
So I mean, it depends on the customers, and we do a lot of lab
Yeah.
work. National labs such as Jefferson, Oak Ridge,
Mm.
Argonne, all that. They don't pay down payments either because it's against the way the government works. But what we'll do is a milestone payment. So let's say, for instance, we do one milestone payment for delivery, receiving of all materials and start of production, right? So we'll receive all the materials and literally go take a picture of us cutting something on their material on the saw, starting production. That's a milestone payment. Um,
Mm.
so, and then they'll have several milestone payments. So then maybe there'll be a milestone payment for all welding, milestone payment for all machine, individual part machining, and it'll be structured out. And then obviously the final payment will always be, shipping of the actual product.
How long are your jobs? So if you're doing these milestone payments, how long do these jobs take from start to finish
Yeah,
typically?
so if it's a milestone base, it's usually a pretty large job. We do things like the semiconductors and all kinds of crazy stuff that could take. I mean, we literally just finished a job that took 3 years.
Wow.
3 years.
So and yeah, it was for Ornell University, or Ornell was a laboratory. Yeah, Oak Ridge National Lab.
Yeah.
Or no, I was thinking of abbreviation. So yeah, that was several milestone payments, and that was a crazy job. Really cool. Just finished. We had a bunch of it was Inconel tubing that we had to basically weld. A bunch of joints that were it was all bent tubing, and so we had to weld it in sections, and it was a tube within a tube within a tube
Mm.
of yeah, it was nuts. And then every weld had to be sent out for X-ray. So that's why it took so long. I mean, every
Okay.
time we did a weld, set of welds, went out to X-ray, had to pass X-ray, come back. Then we had to do pressure tests on them and everything. So that was milestone. So there was two different sets. We got a milestone for one set, milestone for completion of all of the machining work for another set. So that's how you can make sure you're getting paid throughout the job. Really, is milestones. And I've seen milestones as low as a project that is only a month long. It just depends on how much is involved, right? So
Sure. And
it helps it helps your customer too, because now your customer knows where you are in the process without even really having to be up your ass about it. So if they have a milestone for finished welding and you bill them for a finished welding milestone, you send them a picture, they're like, oh, all right, that's where my project's at right now.
that's a
So
good
that's a
point.
good way. It's a good way to talk your customers into milestones too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's interesting. Because my worry, and this is so kind of along these same lines of like just a shop being paid. It's really easy for a machine shop to become almost like a bank to a customer because
sure,
you're spending money for material and you've got to pay for that material either maybe up front or maybe you've got net terms with that. Uh, and for those of you that don't know, net terms essentially means once you invoice, usually upon delivery of an item, if you have, say, net 30 terms for something, you have to pay for that within 30 days after you invoice or after you are invoiced. Um, it's easy to see net 30 terms, net 60 terms. I've heard of some automotive places, I mean, like the big three or something like that, they're net 120, net 180. So you're
that's
talking,
nuts.
I know, I cannot imagine that. I don't think it'd be worth it personally.
No,
I mean, if you're going to wait
I've
half a
heard
year, that's crazy.
Medtronic is that way, like 6 months.
that's insane.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
that, man.
I mean, my quotes all state net 30, but I have some customers that have their own terms. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you do if they send you an invoice and they have net 60 on there? I could complain, tell them no, I want net 30, but I risk losing that customer too. They
Right.
might just go somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And then one thing that we've done, we're going to start getting towards like what do you do when a customer doesn't pay, like what Brad just mentioned. But we've actually had an instance. One of our bigger customers, the work is great. It's a lot of production work, mainly at fab. It's high value work and it's expensive up front. We've got to buy because it's a full assembly for an implement. Um, we've got to spend like three, four, $500,000 up front
Wow.
for drives, motors, hydraulic systems, all this stuff. And then plus you've got, I mean, literally tons of plate steel. Uh, and then you've actually got to put the work into it, make a finished product. And it might take, 4 or 5 months to recoup that upfront investment. Now, once you do that, you're making all kinds of profit because you bought maybe a year's worth of material and hardware and everything else. But especially for a smaller shop, I mean, we're a 35 to 40 employee company at this point. That's hard to swallow. And when we first started doing that work, man, that was really hard to handle. And
Yeah.
one thing that we started doing, and this might be an option for some shops out there, offer up an early payment um,
Incentive.
incentive. Yeah. I think we started doing something like I guess it was really the customer's terms. They were on like a net 45 basis. So we'd get paid about 40 within 45 days of invoicing. I think we started doing like a 2 or 3% discount if they paid within 10. And by and large, they did. And
Oh yeah.
it will take 2 or 3% off the price if it means we don't have to wait, a month and a half to get paid. So
yeah,
that was quite helpful, especially when we were first getting started with that. And then a lot of our like suppliers and stuff, it just depends. A lot of times you don't get the luxury of setting those terms. If their standard is net 30, it is what it is. If it's 60, it's really
yep.
on you as the owner or controller or whatever the case may be to be like, is it worth it or not?
Yeah.
So, and on that note, kind of what Brad was just mentioning, have you ever had a problem with a company or a customer not paying you on time? And if so, I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's we have an accounts payable,
Hmm.
accounts receivable department. They deal with all that. I'll sometimes hear about some situations once in a while. I know a recent situation was we had a customer that was continuously buying from us. Then we delivered some product, and then they ended up not paying within the terms. So we had to. Then they ordered something else while they were still delinquent on that payment. So we had to tell them, hey, you're not doing this until you pay this, pay off your other bill. And so then they ended up, making that payment. So then the job that we started working on and we finished it all up, company filed bankruptcy.
Hmm.
So, so I like, there we go. Now we've got, let's just say 60 grand worth of shit that we could have billed that we can't bill now because the customers decided that they were going to go belly under. Like, why the hell would you even make that order if that was going to happen?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right.
yeah. As
Wow.
far as as far as how to handle that, I mean, yeah, I guess you can ship the goods and then jump on that bankruptcy and try to see if you can get paid off of that bankruptcy because now you have a deliverable. If you don't ship the goods, then obviously you don't get paid, right? So if you
Hmm.
ship the goods, then well, now they owe you. So
Right.
Yep.
I know.
I know it's been coming up quite a bit in the chat, and I've seen it on other platforms too, other social medias. People asking about customers that aren't paying on time, paying late. Uh, I would recommend putting something in your own terms that has late payments. 15% after so many days, 20, whatever.
Mm,
Just I know from a different business, my wife and I own a salon. We went through this probably 10 years ago. Landlord came after us for some stuff, and that was something that the attorneys told us, hey, did you send them your terms? After 30 days, what was the percentage? After 40 days, did you send them an invoice after 30 days? After 40 days, after 60 days? And they didn't follow it. So ultimately, in the end, we ended up winning
Yeah.
because they didn't
Hmm.
follow any sort of terms that let us know what we owed them. I mean, there's a lot more to the story, but so I actually just recently added that to my terms, payment after 15 days, I got a percentage in their late fee. And after 30 days, there's a late fee.
That's a good
So I
idea.
just make sure
Yeah.
I use QuickBooks and it notifies me after 30 days. So I know when to send it now. I've never had an issue with it, but I'm just getting it ready if it ever does happen because I'm hearing it a lot more often lately
Yeah, that's good wisdom.
for
Yeah.
shops having issues.
Well, the economy's been bad for a while, so I would say people are trying to stretch the dollar, not just in the
Yeah.
grocery store, but even in business, and that's not good. It just hurts your supplier.
Mm.
But
It's another business, man.
the bean counters are going to bean count. So what can you do?
Especially for the small shops that can't front that money. Like you said, we ended up being a bank
Exactly.
and we're just waiting for payment.
Yeah, that's what happens with
Yeah,
us.
because in a case like ours, it's usually you got to quote the job, so you got a little bit of time invested there. You got to buy material, and it seems like just what I've seen, like a lot of our material suppliers are pretty short. Like they might be net 10. So you're paying for that material within depending, might be 10 days, a couple weeks, maybe 30, whatever. Your tooling might be net 30, whatever. You got to do the work, ship it, invoice it, and then hope you get paid within 30 days or whatever. So you're just really working off of a revolving, putting out a bunch of money and time, and then waiting on getting paid afterward.
That's why it's really important to establish a good line of credit and make sure you've got a good cash flow set up. I mean that's key for any shop, really. I mean, and lines of credit. I mean, if you have them, it's not going to hurt you to use them, especially if you're buying material.
Yep.
I've heard about that. Yeah, you use a line of credit to buy from, and not your actual bank account, I guess. So
All my vendors have net 30. I got a couple, like you said, that offer a discount if I pay. I got one material vendor that offers, I think, 7% discount if you pay within 15
mm,
or something. But most of my orders aren't $100,000 where I'm gonna save much. Usually I look at it and I'm saving like $2.
Right.
mhm.
But I'd like you said, Kenny, you gotta have the cash flow. Something I did, and it's going to be different for every shop. I mean, I'm not ordering $100,000 worth of material, but I've tried to put myself in a position where I'm paying for the material up front. I'm not utilizing most of my net 30 with my vendors. I try to pay for it up front. So at the end of the day, if I was to look at my accounts receivable and my bank account, everything in the next 30, 60 days is income coming in. I don't owe anybody money,
Nice.
Yeah.
but it's going to be shop dependent. If you're ordering $100,000 worth of material every week, it's a lot of money you're just putting out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think my last material order was $900.
Woo.
Big spender over here.
Yep.
Of course, in
Yeah.
today's economy, what is that? A 1 by 2 piece of aluminum?
Right. But you gotta run that 10% material markup.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Material times 10. Yeah.
Yeah, material times 10. You want to ask some of them questions from the post?
Yeah. Let me find them real quick.
All right. N Ready H. Fixture design and methodology behind it.
Well, obviously, fixture design is going to depend all about your part, right?
Yep.
So generally, I'll be involved in a quoting process, and when I'm doing that, I try to think about fixturing right at that point. So that way, if I have to order fixture material with the job, I can add it and include it in the BOM. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've done fixtures and started a job and then realized that fixture is just not going to work. So I end up having to go back to the drawing board and try something else. We've got this big job we're running right now, and I think I finally nailed it after like the third iteration, third change. And it's a repeat job too, so it worked out good. So now we got everything dialed in, so it's going to be good. But it just depends on the job, and you got to really think it over. Try to think it over as early as possible, so you're not trying to do it while that part's due in 2 weeks. You know,
Hmm.
Yep.
um, the copper parts that I did, I wanted to do vacuum plate, right? So use your resources. I reached out to you, Brad. I know you're a big vacuum fixture guy, so I showed you what I had, and you're like, nope, you changed it up. And you emailed it back to me. It was perfect. So then I basically took that, and I had a couple of different versions of it. I just mimicked what you did. It worked out. That's going to be a repeat job too. I got the pictures in my
Nice.
shelf, so
Sweet.
I'll be able to run that
Nice.
again. So yeah, and definitely. I mean, if you think something's going to be a repeat job, keep that picture. Definitely keep it. Know where it's
Yep.
at, because that's going to save you a lot of money in the long run.
Yeah. I try to keep my vacuum fixtures, but I always end up ordering a plate a little bit thicker than I would need, inch and a quarter, inch and a half, and then if I don't see the part back in a couple months, I ended up milling that thing down and using it again.
Yeah,
Just make my way down.
yeah,
I don't save much of my fixtures. It's usually easier for me to just remake them. I don't get a whole lot of repeat work, so
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what we're aiming for. Like, we've always done the research and development and the one-off lab parts. We're finding that it's more profitable to look at the repeat OEM work.
yep,
So, yeah, we've got a few OEM customers that will tell us right off the bat, this is something that we may do, or we're going to do one every couple months, or maybe 6 a year or whatever. So it's
yep,
good to have that information up front. So then you can dial in all your fixturing, you know, included on the job, and if you're going to give your customer a discount later after everything's figured out, you can do that.
yep.
But save everything, mark everything. I usually put drawing rev numbers on the fixtures if I'm keeping them. It's just definitely it's good to keep those.
Hmm.
Yeah, I suppose that'd be nice to know if they give you a heads up. Hey, we're going to order this again, because that might change the way you design your fixture too. Because
Yeah.
if you got one part and you got to get through one job, you might just wing something quick and simple
Yep.
that may not repeat the next time it comes around in 6 months. So if you can build something based on knowing, hey, this come back, I got to set it back up. What's the best way to do this?
For sure.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm getting, as long as we've been doing this, which is, let's see, this is episode 9. So we've been doing this podcast for, I don't know, 3-4 months. I think every question about this trade can begin with 2 words. It depends. I swear, every time. Depends on the shop,
It
depends on
is.
the employee, depends on the job, depends on the customer, the material. Oh my goodness.
You know where that sucks the most is when you've got your boss asking you, how can you go ahead and train that process, or train your guy or your new guy? Well, it all depends. I can't train for everything because everything changes every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
On that note, we'll follow that up with a perfect question. So this is from our friend Possum Solutions. We've mentioned him before. He wanted to hear Kenny talk about how he approaches a hard or weird part that's new to him, which sounds like most parts that you get.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'll take a full day just dissecting and programming in the model, just kind of figuring things out before I even cut metal.
Mm-hmm.
It depends how expensive the material is. You were talking about that titanium round bar that I put in the 2 vices, right? That was like one shot. That was that one material. The lead time on it was insane too. So I kind of I approach it slow. We care a lot about efficiency, but when it comes to one off stuff like that, we will make sure the hours are there in the job. But you got to measure twice, cut once type of deal. So everything is just slowly and calculated, really.
Yeah. Well, what's the saying? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
What I do a lot of times when I get a part that I know is going to be a lot of time into machining it, I'll do it in steps. I'll post out certain portions of my program and I'll step through it. I'll post out my rough and operation. I'll run that and I'll go take a look at it, check everything, make sure it's going good, and then I'll post the next operation and just step through it,
That's
just
exactly
so I
how
know.
how that's how it's done actually on my
Yep.
end too, brother.
Yeah.
Really, like I will not program an entire part run it and
Yep.
say ready to go. Like if it's something that critical, it's going to be op by op, and you're going to check
Yep.
everything as you go.
Yeah. So I'll post out that roughing operation. It's an hour, 2 hour
Yep.
long, and I'll sit here and I can hear it, so I know it's doing something, and I'll program my next step and I'll step through it, and then I might run a 20-minute operation, just slowly going through it. Because I mean, there's been times where I posted out a program that's 2 hours long, and I left and I came back. I'm like, oh fuck, God damn it, I shouldn't have done that.
Yep. Yeah, I had my computer actually when I so when we got the 5 axis, I wasn't shop supervisor yet. So I had my computer right next to the 5 axis, and it was literally like, all I did all the crazy 5 axis parts. It'd be op after op, just checking it, and I'd be right there next to it the whole time.
Hmm. What's really interesting to me is you, Brad and Kenny, are kind of work the same way. You work through. You got a complicated part. You work through it in steps, and I'm sure in your mind you can sometimes see it all the way through. Not always. I don't work that way. I almost always uh, program a part all the way through. Of course, our shop works a little different. I'm usually programming for an operator. I'm not, programming to run it myself. But even at that, I just feel like I work better if if I know, okay, if I machine the part this way, when I get to the fifth op, I'm not going to be screwed. That type of thing. But then again, I mean, on simple parts, that's a non-issue. Block with a hole in it, that's whatever. But I don't know. On some of that stuff, I guess again, it depends because if it's a complicated part or just weird and you don't know how it's going to act, I guess you can't really plan for it. Um,
It's funny that you say that, man, because I know there's a lot of shops out there that program all the way complete and send it out. But I'm gonna be honest with you, even I got my brother and my nephew, my late guy Reggie. He's like my brother. He's a good guy. But we would always do that. We'd want to have the machine making chips. So we'll like do a roughing, get it loaded, get that machine making chips. And as it's cutting, then we'll sit down and we'll go ahead and we'll do the next operation and pop that in
Yep.
there and that's how we program. So recently, I just hired our new guy, Eddie, and we hired him in as a CNC programmer. So it's gonna be interesting because he's gonna literally be taking like Matt and my nephew and my brother's parts for like our schedule for the next week, and he's gonna go ahead and he's gonna pre-program them. And I'm hoping that the way this is gonna work is that they're gonna get their part. It's gonna be programmed already. He's gonna have it all notated. He's real big on notes. He's already asked me to change the post processor like 4 times to include notes and tool heights and min and max Z's. So he's getting it dialed in. He's doing templates, all kinds of cool stuff. But basically he's going to get it where, here, this is your parts for the week. Go ahead. They're on the Fusion cloud already. Load it up, run it, you know. I'm hoping to keep the spindles running a lot more that way because I'll be honest with you, you know, um, my nephew's only got 3 years experience now. My brother's he's still trying to figure out fusion a little bit, and so what ends up happening is that spindle won't be moving. Yeah, he'll have the rough op going, but then after that he's still struggling. They're struggling programming something, and that spindle ain't turning for an hour. You know, so we're trying to figure out how to utilize that. We're gonna have Eddie program all these parts ahead of time, and I'm hoping we just keep these spindles running.
Yeah. I think you'll.
Yeah. I think, like Pat said, it really depends on the part
Yeah,
and the
And
programmer and the guy running it too. Because I do it occasionally where I'll program a whole part and
I've
I'll
done
let it
it.
run.
Yeah,
But
I've done it.
it really depends on the
Yeah, if
part.
it's a simple
It really
part,
depends if
I don't
yeah.
care. I'll run the whole program, just shoot it over there. But
yeah,
I mean, for the most part,
But sometimes, like you said, it's nice to, I can program a whole roughing part if it has pockets, bosses, contours, whatever. If it's 3 hour rough out, I can program that in one operation. It's one click, select the whole damn
yep,
thing, give 'em
Mhm.
I can load that in the program, and then I can spend the next 2 hours fine tuning every next operation after that. And if the machine stops, I might just load in the next 5 operations that are finishing features I know are good,
yeah,
and I'll walk through it.
Well, and two, like in our case, I mean, we've got an office that myself and the other programmer work out of. And a lot of our parts don't have like 30-minute, 40-minute, an hour roughing cycles on them. So a lot of times, really, this is probably a little bit of exaggeration, but by the time you post out the roughing cycle, you walk out to the machine, load it, start it, go back to the office. By the time you make like one or two tool paths, it's stopped already because the part took 5 minutes, 10
Yeah.
minutes to rough out. But our other programmer came from a shop where it was very much more that way. I mean, he had his computer right there at the machine. He might program for the other guys, but for himself too. And he worked that way. And it took a little adjustment for him when he came here, where at the time when he came here, he was strictly programming for other people, where no, you need to get through all of it, document everything better, because what's in your head is not going to translate the best to someone else unless you've got written notes. And that goes a long way. I think you'll have good results with it, because it sounds like this Eddie fella is he's got the right mentality for what you're wanting to do. That goes a long way.
Man, he's going home and he's freaking programming stuff because he's got access to the Fusion
Wow.
Cloud. He's doing. I've told him, I'm like, dude, you don't have to do work at home. And he's like, oh no, I like doing it. I'm like, all right, that's on you, man.
Right.
I did the same
That's
thing.
awesome.
I was a programmer
felt
for a
that.
company, and I'd go home and I'd program stuff.
It just shows that you love what you're doing, right?
Right.
If I didn't have a wife and the kids at home, I'd probably be sitting my ass on a computer playing around all night too.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
What about you, Cam? How does all that compare for you?
I like to do it more like you, Pat. So at our shop, we've got guys who are pretty much dedicated to setting up and running machines. So I want to have work stacked on every machine all the time. I don't ever want, I've got a bin for each machine on the wall where we put, the PO with prints and setup sheets and all that. And but they basically just come in and grab whatever's next in front for that machine out of the bin. So I don't ever want those bins empty. I want to keep them full with jobs, ready to machine start to finish, clear details, setup sheets already figured out, all the programming's done. That's the ideal scenario. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'm programming stuff as we go, and like I'll get the first operation programmed and write a setup sheet on a sticky note and give it to them. Like, all right, just get that going. I'll make a real setup sheet later, so that way next time we make this, we have one, and then I'll have op 2 ready for you in a minute. Or with bigger parts, I don't like to program bigger parts as I go, just because it can be so time consuming, and plus I don't usually get to just sit down and focus on programming. I'll be programming, and then somebody's got an issue with a part they're making, or they need some help inspecting something, or they're trying to load a big part, so they need somebody to help them load the part or get it out of the machine or whatever. There's always something going on, and so there's a lot of interruptions. So doing it like Brad's way doesn't really work out too well for me, just because of how we're organized. So
that's exactly how that's why we hired Eddie, right? Like I had goals in my head. Like so I started standardizing tooling in every one of our machines, all the same tool numbers, all the same tools. I was trying to put together a template. I was, just get everything locked down. But it's like, man, I've got so much other managerial stuff to do, and I get pulled away for this and that. And it's like half my day's pulled away. And well, you know me, I'm in meetings half the day.
Right.
So, it should be exciting. I definitely I can't wait to see what happens with that.
You guys should just program from home. I don't know what you're trying to do at the shop.
I've done tons of
Dedication,
programming from home. I taught myself how to program at home. I started on a Microsoft
Same.
Surface Pro with one of those shitty little keyboards. It's not even a real keyboard. It's like the screen cover. And it was like right after we had my daughter, my wife was working nights. And so I'd come home from work and take care of her and be like holding her. And she's small enough I could hold her in one arm and just kind of prop the bottle just right. And then do everything one-handed on the computer. It was touchscreen though, so I could drag around on the screen and like move the model. So that did help. But I've done a lot of programming at home. I still do sometimes, but
no, I tell myself all the time to buy a laptop, because there's sometimes I'll be sitting in bed or we'll be watching something. I'm like, don't program that part.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? No, I got a desktop computer. If I need to do, like Kenny, I came out here last night to fix your damn shirt.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why.
I mean, it's not like it's far, but not having a laptop kind of keeps me separate from doing that, because I'd probably sit up all night and program stuff.
Yeah.
It'd be easy to get sucked into.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I really want to walk out here?
Yeah.
Put on my kids' Jesus sandals.
I saw that. When it's -15, -20 out, I'm sure that you'll think twice about doing that.
Oh, you know how many times I've had parts run until like midnight and I run out here in shorts and no t-shirt and sandals and it's negative 15 degrees
Oh
out.
my goodness,
Nope.
you're
That's
crazy.
No
terrible.
thanks.
Only in Minnesota.
Right.
Golly.
But it's like sometimes I'm laying there, I'm like, God, should I go swap that part? It's gonna run for 4 hours. Yeah, I can get one. It'll run overnight. I'll wake up and it's done.
Yep.
I might as well run out there.
So I guess that's kind of the counterbalance to like having a shop at home. It's great, it's convenient. You don't have to go anywhere, but you can't. It's hard to separate it and leave work at
Yep.
work because it's at home.
Yeah. The nice thing for me though is I have a lot of parts that are long
Mhm.
runs, so I can set them up and
Yeah.
leave. So where if I was at a shop, chances are I wouldn't start that part at 4 o'clock before I left. I'd start
Right.
it in the morning and it would run. I'd get 2 parts out in a day in an 8 to 10 hour shift. Where here I can throw it in at 4 o'clock, swap it at 8, swap it again at midnight. I'm getting
Yeah.
3 more
Mhm.
parts in a day.
That's huge.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it's not like I'm out here watching it run. It takes me 10 minutes to come out here. So I mean, some days I'm only in the shop for actually
Yeah.
5 to 6
Mhm.
hours. I mean, yeah, my machines are running for 18, but
Wow.
you know, it's just running
Seems like
out
the
here
bigger,
quick.
more complex parts are kind of your bread and butter, or I guess suit you best. If you
Yeah.
were running short, you know,
Yeah.
2-3 minute cycle parts, you know, batches of 100 or 200, it'd be miserable.
Oh, that would kill me.
then you'd see a
Right.
robot in Brad shop. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'd actually probably put my
Oh, yeah.
horizontal pallet
Yeah.
pull
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
use better.
Yeah, I mean that's I talk about how we've got some production work, but like I mean the main production job we've had for the last like year and a half or so. I mean, I guess it is that it runs across a few different machines, and it's anywhere from on our DM2 with a pallet changer. It's I'm trying to think. I think it's 15 to 20 minutes per pallet on each run, and you've got a little bit of idle time, whatever, and it could run for 30 to 40 minutes if you just leave it running and get both pallets ready. But most of our other repetitive work, it's junk, man. I mean, not to complain about our work, but you're talking you got a a pallet of 100 parts that need 4 drilled tapped holes put in each one. So it's like a 1 minute cycle time, minute and a half cycle time. You spend as much time running the part as you do opening the doors, blowing the part off, type of thing. And it's hard to that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's hard to handle. It's like nickel and dime work. It pays the bills, but oh boy, it can be a drag.
That's when you need like some high school kid operator,
Right.
or even that, or the robot, man, a cobot.
Right.
You know,
A lot of times
that's cobot. I'm trying to talk myself into cobot here. You know, I'm hoping that there's going to be one sitting in here, being able
Oh,
to be
yeah.
swapped between the 5 axis over here and the lathe. So
Does Herco have a line of robots or cobots?
yeah, so
Mm.
they've got their cobot, the Herco Pro cobot.
Mm.
Pretty cool. It's got some really intuitive technology, and I got to play with it at IMTS, and the guy over at Herco that runs all that, Paul Gray, he's been asking me to put a Pro cobot in here probably for about 3 years.
Mm.
The issue is I didn't want the upfront cost, the auto door, the putting the union in the trunnion there, so that way I could get the automatic air vice, things like that. Like that's all upfront initial cost, the vice, all that.
Yeah.
So they might be able to work a deal with them pretty soon. So I might have one of those in here, and I'm kind of excited about it. So I don't have per se the work for it, but it's intuitive enough where if I've got a 2-part or 3-part piece, I could set it up just really quickly to run those. So it's pretty cool.
I've got one more question we can throw in. Okay, Tuck's Garage, another one of our group chat friends. He wants to know for all of us, what is our least favorite machine that we've ever run? And I can tell you what mine is.
Manual or CNC?
Whatever. If you want to do both.
One of each.
We had at one time for like 2 years, we had a wire EDM. You guys have heard me fuss about this before. It was an Aggie, however. It was the first wire EDM that we ever had, first wire EDM I've ever worked with. I could hardly ever get that thing to work right, just because of something about the control on it. I don't know. I was the only person in the shop that got training on it to run it. Um, we kind of got sold on wire EDM based on the idea that when you set it up, if you set up a bunch of parts, you can just leave it run overnight, over a weekend, whatever. And it just never worked out. It'd run for a couple hours and then run into a problem. And the control on it looked like it was Windows 95 or something like that. So we got rid of that machine after maybe not even a couple years. It might have been like a year and a half. Sold it and put that money into the 2009 SL20 that we have now. Now the only problem is what we run into is there's not very many wire ADM sources in this area, so it's expensive. When we do get a job that has to be wired, it's got to be shipped 3 or 4 hours away, and then it is expensive. So to me, I see a little bit of a business opportunity there, but it's going to take the right machine and maybe even finding somebody that does know wire machines to actually run it. I can't say I've ever had a manual machine that I didn't enjoy running. I mean, there was some junky machines at the tech school I went to, but I mean, nothing. The horizontal boring mill that we have, it's I enjoy running it, but it's a lot of work because it's a lot of reaching and stretching and lifting heavy stuff, and it's all manual, so everything's you got to crank everything, and it's a workout, but I enjoy messing with it. So
Yeah, I'll say as far as manual goes, is that bowler
mm,
that scares the shit out of
I
me.
bet 62
I
inch
mean,
chuck.
it
Yeah.
64,
Oh.
64-inch chuck. It's in the ground, so everything's at shin
Oof.
level.
Mm,
Um, it's got a mean taper across the face of the chuck. It's about 8 thou. So as you're facing across the chuck, you got to give it a little bit of a bump in the Z.
mm,
Every couple inches. Yeah, dude, that's my dad knows that personality, that machine very well, so that's his baby. But CNC machine would have to either be the old Morisiki lathe that we had, only because at that time we weren't using cam, and that was such an older control. That was like an old original Fanuc control, where every letter number you had to put in for an address for write your G code, it was like X 12. Then you had to input, and then Z. Every line had to be
mm.
inputted. So it
Oh wow.
took forever to program on that thing. And then if it wasn't that, it was a track mill. Track mill is where the Trunnion 5-axis is right now. But overall, I mean, I learned a lot on both of those. So no matter what, whether it's a shitty machine or not, if you can make good parts on a shitty machine, you're going to be a good machinist.
Right. Right.
So
I'd say my least favorite manual machine we got is our vertical bandsaw.
Oh, no love for the saw.
oh
And it,
yeah, dude, I
right,
could talk about
I
my
know.
saw too.
No, I don't. I don't really have a manual machine I hate running. I'm not a huge fan of running our surface grinder. Part of that is because of the coolant we have in there. There's no telling how long it's been in there or what concentration it's at, and it like burns your skin a little bit. So
Oh no.
Mm,
yeah,
yuck.
it's time to change that coolant. We're gonna swap that out for our regular coolant that we use in the machines eventually one day. But no, our vertical bandsaw. I don't even know what blades on the thing. I don't even know if we have any more blades for it. We should probably look into that. But uh, there's a lot of these split brass bearings that we make that it's like 2.5 inches, 3 inches thick of brass, like 6 inches in diameter, 7 inches in diameter, and so
Mm.
you've got to try to split. You take it to the height gauge, scribe a line, and then try to split it, as close as you can, perfectly down the middle. And I mean, it'll take you 5 minutes just to split one piece, but it's like all your force, pushing as hard as you can, like wearing your fingers out, trying to get that thing through it. That thing
Golly.
sucks. But as far as CNC, I don't really have any that I hate to run. I'd say my least favorite that I've ran is probably Fidal, but honestly, I kind of like the Fidal. I mean, whenever I've got to sit up and run stuff on there versus, a newer machine like the Doosan's or whatever, I'm always like, ah, man, stupid Fidal. I got to go edge find everything and do things
Mm.
manually. But it's still not bad. Once you get fast on a Fadal, it's nice, and you know, like the shortcuts and stuff.
I'm gonna go with the vertical bandsaw too. I worked at a tool and die shop, and we had to saw cut the die set clearance holes through. So you'd have to drill your holes in the corner. You'd have to feed the bandsaw through, weld it, put it on, cut it out, and you'd get like
Yep.
2 inches. Fucker would break. Weld it again, do it again. And these die sets sometimes were 2 inches by 48 by 48, and you'd be standing there trying to hold it and spin it and try to do a circle. It was a
Golly,
pain in the
yep.
ass. I hated it. I actually ended up starting.
Yeah,
I actually started milling them out on a Bridgeport just because I hated doing it. So I
we've
just sit
got
there
some
and hand
parts that
turn
we would
shit.
do that. Drop the blade through and weld it, and then machine it, but or cut it.
Never done that.
Yeah, I don't. If anything like that,
What?
we're not doing that in the future. We're machining it away.
No.
Well, if it takes a machine 20 minutes to do it, I don't care. It's way better than paying somebody to stand there and dick around with that thing for hours.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. As far as CNCs, I'd probably say a Fadal. With the space bar and Fadal 88s, I ran one. I got hired at a company to be a programmer, and they weren't ready. So they'd stuck me on the Fadal. I've never ran one before. And I had to build a fixture, mount it to the table, get the part in there. I programmed it. We didn't have a post, so I had to build a post for it. Threw it in there. And I don't know how many times I had to hit that damn space bar to get back to the menu. It was just like click, click, click. Oh, damn, here we go. Click, click. And then I finally got it figured out, hit start, and the tool doesn't reach the table.
Yep.
They're like 6 inches short for some damn reason. And I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. So I hit it over travel. I'm like, oh, you got to be shitting me. So I went and said something to somebody like, well, you just got to raise it up 4 inches. So I had to tear everything out, raise it up 4 inches.
Oh man.
Start over. Started running it, and the spindle motor blew up on it. So then my second least favorite machine, I had to move it to an old. It was an open machine. It was like an old Monarch. It was from like the 80s. I never ran one. I think I went to go delete the program out of the machine that was in there, and it deleted all the parameters.
Oh,
So the machine had nothing left.
Oh shit.
Oh my gosh.
So that was my like third day at this company working.
I'm guessing you
like,
packed your shit up and left after that, man.
I only lasted there probably 8 months. It was a terrible company. I think I mentioned it once
Oh
on
shit.
previous podcast. but
Golly.
Yeah, so I guess we're all considered CAD CAM babies, right? So if I say that, have you guys actually programmed out the control in your past?
Yeah.
Like,
I have.
have.
yeah,
I haven't.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I was thinking about that. That was literally my shop before I pushed CAM through here. We were programming everything by hand. So when we were doing pockets and things like that, we were programming these pockets, and we were either doing a G91 and copy paste and bring everything down, or you were using offsets. And I can't tell you how many crashes that offsets cause you.
Yeah.
Yeah, my first experience with CNC programming was programming on the machine, and I ended up setting up. It was a Fadal, but it wasn't the 88 controller or whatever. It had a Fanuc control. I had templates, so I just would open up program 1000. That was my drill template, so I'd copy that over. But I mean, I could do it. I did it plenty of times, just all the way through, just type.
Yep.
Okay.
I think I've
Plenty of
hand
fat fingers,
programmed
yeah.
at the control 2 or 3 times, maybe. It was for something like stock was oversized, and you got to face off like 100 parts. And so you just make a little program real quick, and then face them all, and then run your program that you actually had from the computer.
I still find myself doing it. Like when I jump on the highs, if I jump on a VF11 or VC, if I'm doing something real quick, I don't know. I just feel like instead of going to my desk and making a program real quick, I still go to the control, just type it out, man. Just that's it, man.
Yep.
So
That's what I did in that video of me facing off the master jaws on that orange flag
yes.
Oh, right.
the other
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't.
And
Sometimes it's just easier, right? I
Right.
mean, I feel like you can resort back to CAM, but it's like setting it up, do a setup or whatever. Even if you got templates, it's like if you're there already, man, why the hell not just knock it out?
Right.
Yep.
Like we use the conversational on Hercos a lot too,
Mm.
and that allows us to knock shit out, especially when we're dealing with weldments and things like that. Like obviously, if I have a weldment, it's not going to be like the model, right? It's going to be off.
Mhm.
So you got to kind of make your changes and things like that. If you're just popping holes and facing something, And I just find it so much easier to do it right at the control and just bypass cam completely.
Right. I can't say I've ever done a lot of hand programming on a mill, but I actually started out. I'm gonna regret saying this. I started out on the lathe.
Oh,
That's an inside joke that audience won't get, but anyway, um,
for the military.
Rainbows across the
There
screen.
you
let's
go.
not. So, but no, I mean, a year probably, I was G code programming for lathe work, and that's kind of where I got started with that. And then I actually had one chance before I got into really using CAM. Um, I had one chance to do hand programming on a mill part that gave me enough of like the basics to where, I mean, if I need to go up and make like a facing program or drill and tap some holes, that kind of thing, I can do it. It's no big deal. I can understand like some of our machines. I mean, there's some movements and stuff that I can't get from CAM. Now, mind you, our post processors aren't as tuned as they probably should be, but like on our gantry,
Why is
well,
that?
that's a whole other issue. We'll save that for later. Um, our like on our gantry, our GR510, a lot of times you just got to move the gantry out of the way. It's simple enough to do, but you just need to know, okay, can I use incremental move or should I use off, excuse me, go off the work offset or, whatever, or even use G53. Um, the other, I mean, macros are probably the other thing that I do quite a bit by hand. When I need to. Macros can get funky in a hurry, but
I like macro programming.
yeah, it's very,
I
very
got I
interesting.
dove deep into macro programming back in the day, man. We had this repeat job. They were some kind of oil gas industry, some kind of filter. I can't get into details, but
Mhm.
we had to basically probe and bore all these their weldments. We had to probe and bore them, and then we had to take a measurement after we were done and record the measurement because they put some kind of bladder in there that had to hold that you had to hold a certain size. And if you see my Instagram video of my brother launching a boring head
Mm.
out of the machine, that's the part I'm talking about.
Okay.
So I built a macro that actually went in and programmed. Well, it probed it. It went in and bored it. Came back with the probed the size again in a couple spots. I did it in different orientations, and then I had a laptop hooked up to the uh, the machine, the EC2000, that did a D print, and it shot the size back out to the paper, so no one had to stop and check it with a
Nice.
caliper, write it down.
That's cool.
Everything all was right there on a
I've
notepad.
done
It was
something
pretty
sort of like
cool.
that too. We've got some stainless parts that have dowel pins. Like we machine them fully, and then we press dowel like 12 dowel pins or 8 dowel pins into it, and they've got a really tight tolerance from the surface of the part to the top of the dowel pin. So we put longer dowel pins than we need, put them back in the machine, and then I'll probe directly next to each one of those dowel pins, and using macros assign or basically overwrite an extended work offset, and I have an extended work offset applied to each one of those. But also at the beginning of the program, I'll use it
Nice.
to assign the correct X, Y, and Z work offsets based on where my part actually is, like where I'm starting from,
Mm.
to all those extended work offsets. So then as it goes through and probes, it actually changes the Z on the first 8 or 12 extended work offsets. And then each time the end mill will come in and just face the tops of them, and it'll call up the correct work offset for each one of those pins. So then you're dead on exactly the same on
That's
every single
awesome.
one.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a weldment. Then you had to have a localized
No, it was
measurement.
just a stainless piece, just like a I don't remember what it was for, some sort of gland or something.
Yeah,
But another awesome
yeah.
thing with macros is for like when you're probing stuff, and so anytime you probe something, I know on Fanuc anyways with the Renshaw stuff, when you probe something, it outputs everything. Like it outputs the X position, Y position, diameter,
Mhm.
depth, height, all that
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And so you can take
Yep.
that stuff and like on the Fanuc stuff, it's usually in the macros are in the 100s, which don't retain after you hit reset or end of cycle or whatever.
Right.
So what I'll do is just say like I'll start at 600 usually because those retain, and I'll say pound
Mm.
600 is equal to pound 138, and that'll retain that diameter, so I can have in process inspection done in the machine. Then you can just walk up at the end of it, look at your macros, and say, all right, 600, 601, 602, 603. It checks all those for you, and then you got your dimension.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did with that program I was talking about. It had a min max, so it flagged once if there was an issue with the measurement. It flagged you, so that way you knew something was going on to recut, or either that or you scrapped
One of
it.
the coolest
Yep.
things is having a probe check your parts for you and adjust your wear offset for your tool that's actually cutting that surface.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how about it, Brad? How's that probe working out for
I was
you?
about to say, you can't do that with a Heimer.
What? What the fuck is a probe?
Oh,
That's when the aliens come get you.
oh,
What I thought. I'll set it up one of these days and
There you go.
I'll record
There
it
you
for
go.
you.
That'll be history.
When
yeah,
I
just
crash
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Speaking of, my nephew just crashed the tool setter
Nice.
yesterday.
Oh,
Yep, he was in the BMX 42. We had a plate across the table. It's 42 inches in the X, so we do utilize that. We usually just put something across the rotary table is like subsurface of the main table. I would say like I don't know 40 thousandths or something. So you can lay something across and won't hurt anything. And he was cutting an outside profile on a 1/4 inch plate of stainless, and I've got the tool setter in there with the rock lock, so you can take it out, so you don't do that. And he literally, I've got another dent in the spindle cover. Took it out. It was good. I was able to fix it, so at least we're all right there. Because that's the second time he crashed it. First time he turned the spindle, the B axis at 90 degrees and came straight down on it, smashed it in a million pieces.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
but
he was scared though. He thought I was gonna beat his ass.
the more you idiot-proof things, the bigger the idiots
Yeah.
get.
Well, what was it? What was that Chinese or the Japanese word
Pokeyoki.
again?
Oh,
Kung
Pokeyoki.
Pao.
Poke-
What?
Yep.
Pokeyoki.
Yep. I guess that's about it, ain't fellas?
Yep. Good spot to wrap up.
Thanks for joining us, Kenny. And
Thanks for having
do
me.
this again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Yep. Audience, be sure to check out Kenny's Instagram page at Patriot Machinist. Check out all kinds of fun stuff, interesting projects. Give us likes and thumbs up on the YouTubes and the Spotifys and all that fun stuff. Yep.
Apple
Yep.
Podcasts.
Can't forget Apple.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Other ones I've
There's a
never
few
heard
other
of.
ones, but-
I don't know.
Those are the ones that matter.
It's on there.
We'll catch you next time.
Great outro.
See you guys later.
See you later.